Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition, between the Senior Bowl and Super Bowl edition of Thinking Out Loud. If that's the case, we must be somewhere on the 10 freeway in the middle of Mississippi. I've done that drive once from New Orleans in 2018 to Mobile to the Senior Bowl after the Rams beat the Saints in the NFC Championship game. And I was just a guy whose name ended in a vowel trying to avoid a My Cousin Vinny situation in the middle of the night driving through Mississippi. It happens. I survived. I'm here, and I'm happy to be here. I'm happy that you are here. Thank you for liking. Thank you for watching, subscribing, sharing, anything with ING. This show, this podcast on the YouTubes and all the socials. My name is Andrew Siciliano. I say it's between the two. It's between the two for me. I'm back in the home office now. We record this on Friday, the day after the practices ended in Mobile, and most of the NFL headed out and headed home, and the day before the actual Senior Bowl game, Rhett Lewis, Daniel Jeremiah, Charles Davis on NFL Network on Saturday. And then next week, the Super Bowl hype heading to New Orleans. Here is my one Super Bowl guarantee for you this week, Sam Batesh. I guarantee you I will not call the site of the Super Bowl the Big Easy, because nothing is more sportscasterish, nothing is more local newscasterish than calling a town by its cheesy, corny tourist nickname that most of the locals despise, because every town has one of those that most of the locals despise. Now, I can't say definitively that in New Orleans they hate the Big Easy, but I can tell you this, and you have family there, it is the Big Lazy to call the town New Orleans. I'm sorry, to call the town the Big Easy.
Yeah, I think New Orleans is certainly something
acceptable.
And Nolans, I believe, from a local standpoint, is something they would even rather at that point. But Big Easy,
well, because I mean, if you call it Nolans, doesn't that just scream local sportscaster or newscaster from another town trying to fake the accent?
But at least it's a little more about the area, and it speaks to the dialect and perhaps the Creole nature of the way people sound at times. I mean, look, my mom is from New Orleans, and we simply call it that. She has never said Big Easy. That has just not happened. Never. My parents met at LSU, which of course is not New Orleans. That's Baton Rouge. And an entirely even different dialect there as well.
Do they overpronounce it like the sportscaster tossing to the 45-second LSU shot sheet going, Baton Rouge?
Baton Rouge? Not exactly, although my mom is capable of getting there, and she does have French in her background as well. But no. Baton Rouge. Baton Rouge is exactly, that's perfectly acceptable. And I would say the Bayou is also okay. The swamp is obviously not designated for New Orleans, but it is also very much swampland there as well. But I would say, New Orleans and Bayou. And frankly, I think Bourbon Street's okay too. I mean, Bourbon Street,
that's fine.
Even the locals understand Bourbon Street is a thing, and it obviously brings in.
But nobody says I'm taking my talents to Bourbon Street.
No, they do not. And I don't know of any free agents who have actually taken their talents to New Orleans. Obviously, we understand how Drew Brees ended up there, but not exactly.
Yeah, I mean, no Philadelphia newscaster or sportscaster transitions from like their A-block story about a local trial to their next story about, a school board meeting by saying, meantime, in the city of brotherly love. I mean, right.
Please, no.
No one does that.
And by the way, when you do, I want to hear your real thoughts from Mobile and from the Senior Bowl, but we have to, just if I forget anything else today, I have to ask you about bacon sushi at some point.
So I didn't, let's just get it out of the way right now.
Okay.
I tweeted that the morning after a fantastic dinner at a really good restaurant, Chuck's Fish House in Mobile. There's a bunch of them in Alabama, all throughout the state, Birmingham, Tuscaloosa. Good place. I highly recommend. I was not paid for this endorsement. That was on their menu. And
it was an add-on, at least. It wasn't just
it was an add-on,
right?
I didn't recognize it until the next morning, because I was a little late for dinner. I was hosting a show with the Hall of Famer Bill Polian on Sirius XM NFL Radio, and the group I was joining had sat down about 20 minutes earlier, so I knew I was going to be late for dinner. And I had looked at the menu and said, "Hey, if you guys order before I get there, hey, just get me this, like the fish of the day, whatever it was, blackened, please, side salad, no cheese." And then the next morning, when I open up my phone at the airport, and you open up the browser, well, that was what was there, right? Because it was the last thing I had looked at.
The online
and I'm looking at, what else is on the menu? Because I like that place. Oh, wow, they had a lot of sushi. Because I saw other people at the table had ordered like legit sushi rolls. So I'm going through. I saw that you could add bacon to the spicy tuna roll.
Now, what are your thoughts the first time, and again, back to Philadelphia, but the first time I saw cream cheese, the Philadelphia roll,
Disgusting.
Really, now I've eaten it and thought, I think the first time I had it, I thought, okay, that is akin to a bagel in a way with lox, but
it's disgusting.
Absolutely unnecessary at a sushi restaurant.
The Philadelphia roll. I mean, the Philadelphia roll is an American creation. And try going to Tokyo and ordering a Philadelphia roll at a place that isn't intended strictly for English-speaking tourists.
And again, a Philadelphia roll at this point should have maybe Wagyu beef in it, right? That would be kind of like more like a cheesesteak type thing. But because here's the thing, in Philadelphia, is anyone proud of Philadelphia cream cheese? That's not that's not really a Philly thing at all. I don't think no one has ever been debating cream cheese.
You really want me to go off on a rant on sushi here? I eat and you eat. We're of the same mind here. High quality sushi or even whatever. I'm there to eat the fish. I'm there to taste great, well-prepared, fresh fish. I'm not there to have mayonnaise with a side of fish. Which is what, unfortunately, a lot of people and a lot of restaurants want, right? So if you're going to give me this massive roll with like stacks and stacks and stacks of things upon whatever's on the bottom with mayo and that's not sushi.
No, the burnt mayonnaise situation is just not for anybody. No, and I'm also against. I don't know. How do you stand on? I'm pretty against supermarket sushi. Also, I like the sushi.
Depends on the supermarket.
Yeah, true. I don't seek out raw fish unless I'm at a sushi restaurant. That's kind of how I am.
If you there's for our Los Angeles listeners and viewers. Mitsuwa is a Japanese grocery store, and they have amazing high quality sushi. There's one on the west side, kind of in the Palms neighborhood, and there's one in the South Bay, which they just a couple of years ago moved to a new locations by Del Amo Mall. You get good sushi from there, like amazing. I've prepared sushi at home before. I'll go get like a beautiful block of yellowtail from there and go home and slice it. And then,
that's nicely done.
Yeah. Now, the key is to get the rice right. Hard to get the rice right if you don't have a rice cooker. You could do it. It takes a long, long time. You need the right ingredients. That's the hard part. Like the stickiness, it's really hard to get right.
Gotta have that right.
The sashimis are far, far easier to do. Also, a fun fact, 2 years ago, I took a sushi making class and had a blast.
We're going to have to do that. I think sushi night at your place. I'd be into that. That I would do. Follow you down that path.
You also need the sharp knives. You can't have you can't be like my parents who, just have like that drawer of knives that they use. And then you take them out and like, you can't even cut bread. I mean, I can't tell you last time I cut bread in my home, but you couldn't even do that. Anyway, I digress. Let's get to Mobile. So the quarterbacks. Quarterback 1 or 2 was not there, but you knew that. If you look at Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward and say they are the top 2 quarterbacks, they were both at the East-West Shrine game in Dallas, although neither actually played at the game. I beg your pardon. Shedeur was there. Cam Ward was not there. Shedeur met with a bunch of teams. He did not work out. There's a story going around, the Giants, the Browns, the Titans, the teams in the top 3 told Shedeur to not work out. Didn't happen. Not true. At least I know from a Browns perspective, did not happen. Andrew Berry told a couple of reporters, yourself included, when he met with a very small group of media in Mobile. That's not true. So teams met with the player. And everyone agrees Shedeur carried himself well. Look at his interview with Jane Slater during the game. He was at the East-West game Thursday night on NFL Network. Guy carries himself well. Pat Shurmur, his offensive coordinator, former NFL head coach, former NFL offensive coordinator. So this idea, college offense, no, it isn't. No, look, are they in shotgun a lot? Are they in pistol a lot? Yeah, most college teams are. Show me the college team that's under center all day long. There aren't that many. Michigan State, for example, with Aiden Childs. Jonathan Smith does a lot of under center stuff, but they're in shotgun plenty as well. You need to look at how a guy was coached. You need to look at what systems he's had. As Shedeur joked, he's had 6 different offensive coordinators. Remember, Jackson State in Colorado, he has roughly 40 career starts. That means something. It does. Cam Ward, right around the same amount between 2 seasons at Washington State and 1 season down at Miami. The quarterbacks in Mobile who looked the best, I think Jaxson Dart looked pretty good, delivered the football well. Lane Kiffin, his head coach at Ole Miss, was down there. Got a little bit of hitch in his delivery, but minor. Ball comes out quickly. He threw pretty well to tight windows here. That was the concern coming down to Mobile. Everything in a Lane Kiffin offense, the windows are this wide, right? In the NFL, they're this wide. Thought he did a decent job. There are a couple other quarterbacks to look at. Hennigan out of Memphis looked decent. The guy to keep an eye on, and if I said this last week, I apologize, or a couple of days ago, is Tyler Shough from Louisville, coached by the Brahms. He's got a cannon. He's got a hose. Now he's gonna be older. He's going to be 26 come September, well-traveled, 3 different schools, ended at Louisville, started at Oregon, got a couple of degrees at Oregon, and then had a lot of injuries. And, the quarterbacks bounce around these days. Ended up at Louisville. He throws a heck of a ball. Put on some of the tape. He can make those off-platform throws that everyone loves to hear about these days. He's got an arm. I had an evaluator tell me, you drop him in a game next year, 2 years from now, he's going to start games in the NFL. Now, does he start games in the NFL as the number 1? I don't know. Is he a guy that is a mid to late round pick and he gets to your camp and he lights it up in the preseason and you go, wow, we can't get rid of him. And then he gets into a game and then he wins a game or 2. Yeah, maybe he could play. But those are the kind of quarterback conversations you're going to hear this year. Where do we put Will Howard? Again, look at the experience. Bo Nix, Dillon Gabriel, who was there as well. Do we value the experience and maybe all the other things we want to see from a quarterback, arm strength, mobility? They're not necessarily there, but the experience is there. The winning resume is there. Or do we just want the traits? Cam Ward, twitchy athlete, played some big-time programs, made some wow throws, certainly. You can't take away from what he did this year at Miami. And then you say, we think he's still an ascending player. And that's the tough eval this year. Look, there isn't Trevor Lawrence. There isn't Andrew Luck. You've heard that a lot this year. And you're going to keep hearing that this year. There isn't a Drake May necessarily, a Caleb, a Jaden Daniels, not there. It is a very difficult evaluation. So quarterbacks on one side. By the way, I do like Dillon Gabriel, but again, he's only 5'10 and a half. He threw some nice passes, a lot of them. Gets the ball out. He could sling it, got the arm angles and all that, just not a very big guy. Running backs, very, very deep group. I like LaQuint Allen from Syracuse. Of course I do. I like Trevor Etienne. It runs in the family. He goes through people. Devin Neal's got some juice. The TCU kids got some juice. Virginia Tech as well. Very deep tight end class. Elijah Arroyo from Miami. Keep an eye on him. A lot of people like to say he looks like all these other Miami tight ends. Greg Olsen. Okay. I don't know if I see that, but what I do see is a guy that has battled through injuries and showed up and looked the part and caught everything thrown at him and had a lot more talk to the other players, the DBs, the linebackers, a lot more twitch than maybe you might have thought. He could play, and it is a very deep tight end class. Same goes for Mason Taylor, the son of the Hall of Famer Jason, who was there. And on the D-line, Donovan Ezeraku, Mike Green. Look, there are a lot of names that were great during the week that you're not going to see on Saturday. And I don't want to say it's disturbing, upsetting, however you want to call it. We've seen this coming now. that the college all-star games, they're not dying. I'm not saying that. But I think they have to be reevaluated. And I don't know what you can do. But with the CFP ending, with Notre Dame and Ohio State playing a week before the Senior Bowl, and even less time, less than that, before the East-West Shrine game, like, what are you going to do? These guys have to get a break. Ohio State, Notre Dame, very, very, very talented rosters. You want to see those guys. Now, from what I understand, the Ohio State guys that pulled out, all the defensive players plus the quarterback, most of them did that before the game. They let the Senior Bowl know, hey, the schedule just sucks. We need a break. We're not going to be there. A bunch of the Notre Dame guys decided to go, and you say, well, why? Well, a lot of the Ohio State guys have higher grades than a lot of the Notre Dame guys. Now, it's not a blanket statement here where all the Ohio State guys are better than the Notre Dame guys. But you have a lot of Notre Dame guys, let's say Riley Leonard, Jack Kaiser, for example, that, want to go to the Senior Bowl, want to compete. That's a positive, but kind of sort of need to as well to build up their draft stock, to go and compete and impress, because the coaches, the GMs are all there. You want to put on a show. Riley Leonard admitted, and I talked to him too, Sam, that he was beat up. I mean, beat up from that 18-play drive and a 16-game season and everything that happened. He had just played a game a week earlier, but there was no way that he was going to pass up the Senior Bowl. He's from Fairhope in Alabama. He's from right there. Dreamed of playing in this game as a kid. He wanted to be there. He also needed to be there. He's not seen as QB1 or QB2 or even QB5. He needed to be there. But a lot of guys don't anymore. And last year, there were 10 first-round picks. I don't know if we're going to have 10 this year. The biggest issue is keeping the players there. Because come Thursday, if you're at the Mobile airport, you're seeing the good players leaving and getting on the plane with you and flying out of town. And whether it's Mike Green or Donovan Ezeraku or Mason Taylor, they're out of here. I was talking to an agent on Monday who had a blue chip player, maybe not a first-round pick, but a second-round pick, certainly. And I said, is your guy going to stay? And the guy looked at me and said, for now. And guys don't even make excuses anymore. It used to be, it's like, oh, Friday, I got a cough. I'm not feeling well. I got to go. Oh, I tweaked my ankle. Oh, it's my hammy. Guys don't even come up with the little white lie anymore. They just go, I'm out. Mike Green tapped out after Wednesday's practice. And Wednesday's practice was the one in which he stole the soul of Josh Connerly, the Oregon left tackle, who was playing right tackle in this drill. And he bull rushed him and knocked him 10 yards back. And at that point, Mike Green, no doubt, I would have to think, went, yeah, I'm good. See ya. I got my viral moment. People think I'm a first-round pick. I'm out. And it's upsetting for guys like Jim Nagy, who work year-round to stock this game with the talent that the NFL evaluators want to see up close. Jim worked in the NFL for 20 years. He's got multiple Super Bowl rings, right? He knows what he's doing. He works hand in hand with NFL GMs all year long to get them the players that they need and want to see. And then after they see him, those guys go, I'm getting out because I've made my case and I don't want to get injured. I don't know what the answer is because Mobile, this is the 76th year, 75th in Mobile. And this is one of the best events on the NFL calendar. But whether it's this one or the East-West game, which they've tried to pump up on the league level the last 4 or 5 years, I don't know the future.
Question for you on this, and it's only because I haven't had a chance to go to Mobile and I've had a lot more experience at it, but comparing this to the Combine in two ways, from an evaluator standpoint and from a player standpoint, do you have an overarching thought? Because there are players who also, look, top of the top tier have an opportunity to maybe even not go to the Combine. We've seen plenty of that. But in regards to these two, Senior Bowl versus Combine, player standpoint, evaluator standpoint, is there more to be gotten from either one?
Yeah, absolutely. More from the Senior Bowl, hands down, and it's not even close.
And
now,
that's not, I would say your average person is not thinking that way. Your average person is not thinking that.
And I understand why. You need the combine for the testing, right? For the medical and for if 40 is still your thing. And
it's still a thing.
Yeah, the combine is a significant part of this process. Absolutely. The interviews, the testing, the medical, vital. But what Mobile gives you is the one-on-ones. You get to see Mike Green going against Josh Connerly. One-on-one, over and over and over again. You need that. You need Emory Jones against Barron Sorrell, LSU against Texas. That was awesome. You want that. You need to see that last year nobody could cover Ladd McConkey when you have the best of the best out there. One-on-one drills. It's all about the one-on-one drills. You want to see how the Mountain West, no, better yet, the MAC corner, perfect example. You want to see Quinyon Mitchell last year, the Toledo corner, who had many an NIL offer to leave Toledo after the 2022 season. He could have gone wherever he wanted. Many SEC offers, Big Ten offers. He said, I'm going to stay. Okay. Well, you don't get SEC wide receivers in the MAC. So he went down to Mobile and locked everybody down. And you're like, check. All right. It's real. Totally real. Cooper DeJean, another Eagle, right? First round, second round picks last year for the Eagles. Obviously, he played in the Big Ten, but you want to see his short area quickness.
He wasn't a household name. I don't know. He was not a household name.
He was a good name. He was a very big name, and he also had killer return ability. Right? He had a call. Yeah, like they had that one punt return they called back on that baloney call for Iowa.
Yes, of course.
He was a blue chip prospect, but you want to see him work inside and outside against the elite receivers in the class. Now, Malik Neighbors wasn't there and Brian Thomas wasn't there last year, but you get my point. The competition with all the coaches and the GMs standing on the field. Heck, you could walk out onto the field. You can walk out to the 50. You're Mike Tomlin, Kevin Stefanski, any of the coaches who were there, Dave Canales or Shane Steichen, you could stand out there in the middle of the damn drill if you want to. Totally allowed. Mike Tomlin actually sometimes takes over the drills and ends up coaching them. Not even kidding. So that is invaluable, and that is far, far different than the combine.
I love that, and I love that you get to go there and see that in that way. And of course, the combine is a number of drills and a number of items that never happen on Sunday, Monday, or Thursday.
The underwear Olympics.
That's it. I mean, these are players showing you what they are. It is the equivalent of the term in a vacuum. The combine is in a vacuum, and that is that. So I love it. It's incredibly meaningful. I love that you're there to see that and to bring it. And for a player like Milroe, I mean, right, again, a player who clearly is not that guy, this is the event for him to win. Because when the other two quarterbacks are there, he will not be the name that rises, but he has a chance to be that in something like this.
And to be fair, he did not win. Now, it doesn't mean he lost, but Jalen Milroe did not stand out this week as, that guy could be QB3, QB2. Doesn't mean it won't happen, but for those who thought if Jalen Milroe goes to Mobile, and you always want the Alabama guys there, right? That is one thing that Jim Nagy and before him Phil Savage worked tirelessly to do, is to get the Alabama guys there. It is a big deal. This event is huge within the state of Alabama. The Alabama and Auburn guys there, it's significant. Jalen Milroe, world-class citizen, won the Campbell Award, the academic Heisman. He's got a firm handshake, despite the smaller hands. And he's got a rocket arm. He's a heck of an athlete. He played winning football. Accuracy did not show up this week. It just didn't. Don't mean to hammer the guy. He just did not see it, unfortunately. He is going to get drafted. He's going to play in the league, but you're not looking at him as, he's starting next year. Doesn't mean he won't start a game or two, depending on where he goes, but it will not be a day one deal. All right. You want to talk about the Super Bowl? Should we do this?
Yeah, I mean, look, should we be transparent? This has been difficult. It's been difficult for us to wrap our head around the amount of days that there are between championship weekend and the Super Bowl, and what you have to do, and what you see the world, certainly what the world has become in regards to not just dissecting these games, but let's just call it what it is: manufacturing content for something.
It's a first
that
world
not,
problem, by the way.
it's
Think of a new
yes,
way
we're very
about
lucky, but
America's greatest sporting event.
But it's been, at least we can admit, it's been interesting. There's a few things that rise to the level that really do, I think, inspire the two of us in regards to this game, of course. And as it gets closer, we will be right there. But in regards to taking every single piece of this and dissecting it, it's a stretch. It can be a stretch, and your term low hanging fruit shows up more often than not.
Mike Mayock, that is his favorite term. It was great to see Mike this week, by the way, in Mobile. Before we get to the Super Bowl, actually, quick thought here on if I could just button up the quarterbacks real quick. A lot of people keep asking, what about this mock draft and what about that mock draft? It is way too early, but it is why the content machine is cooking here for the draft. I love to look at them as well. I love to mock the mocks as well. It's hard, really, to take any mock draft, not seriously. I respect most of the people that do them, right? I say most, meaning I just look at a handful: Daniel Jeremiah's and Bucky Brooks and Charles Davis and a Todd McShay mock draft or a Dane Brugler mock draft, right? I look at those. But until free agency happens and the start of the new league year on March 12, and those quarterbacks play musical chairs, including some which right now are under contract, which might move, like a Kirk Cousins or a Matthew Stafford or an Aaron Rodgers. Until those chairs move, it's hard to really get a feel on the mock drafts. And remember, you have a new brain trust in Tennessee, right? You always have to consider that. Where are the new coaches in, say, the top half of the draft, or the new GMs in the top half of the draft, and how do their perspectives change everything? In Vegas, new coach and new GM, they're sitting there at 6. So you have to consider all of these factors right now when you look at the mocks. Anyway, getting to the Super Bowl, where you have a quarterback who is taken 10th overall against a quarterback, there's your transition, who is taken 53rd overall, one being Mahomes and one being Jalen Hurts. There is going to be a lot said in the next week about Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. I'm not going to go down the dark rabbit hole of conspiracy theorists about the officiating of the Chiefs and Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. Please, I beg of you, spare me. And better yet, spare yourself. There are far more constructive things to do, far better thought exercises one could do to spend a day and to lead a better life. But I do find it interesting, the inevitable comparisons that we will hear this week, because Tom Brady is calling the game on Fox with the great Kevin Burkhardt, my neighbor. The Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady comparisons. If Mahomes can win 3 straight, which would be amazing, more importantly, it would be unprecedented, will he pass Tom Brady? Should we have the conversation that now Mahomes is the greatest of all time? Please, I beg of you, stop. Since when is 4 better than 7? Mahomes has 3. If he wins this, he will have 4 amazing Lombardi trophies, 4 undeniable championships. But last I checked, Tom Brady has 7. So the mere fact that the Chiefs could win 3 in a row doesn't make the guy over here the best when the guy over here has more. As far as I know, 7 will always be greater than 4. I don't know why this is a conversation. I don't know why I'm getting fired up about it. I don't know why I'm reacting to people screaming on TV about it, but I guess I am. 7 is still greater than 4. When Patrick Mahomes gets to 7, we can have the conversation. But until he gets to 7, there is no conversation. It's an example of filling space and time and coming up with new topic bars and new content. It's what you call in the business feeding the beast. It's not a legitimate topic nor a legitimate conversation. Why then, Andrew, am I even going down that road? I honestly don't know. I just wanted to put that to rest before we get to New Orleans. 7 is still greater than 4, even though I know we're 31st in math worldwide. I know we're 31st in math, but nobody, even if we're 31st in math as a country, thinks that 4 is greater than 7, because it is not. 7 is still greater than 4.
I love what you've boiled this down to. And oftentimes this is, again, LeBron and Jordan brought this up numerous times. I would say that's still actually a very heated debate in NBA circles, LeBron and Jordan. And the easiest solution for those on the Jordan side is to say 6 for 6 in the finals, 6 finals MVPs. That's simple math. You boiled this down to a very simple equation as well, 7 versus 4. And I think that's okay. I do want to give a little credence to the idea that Mahomes could do something Brady didn't. Now, what happens is the reason this even becomes a conversation is because there are so few things from a quarterback standpoint that Brady didn't do. I mean, just think about it from an accomplishment standpoint. There are so few opportunities to even say, oh, well, Tom Brady didn't do that. To have 7, to have more than any other franchise is terrifying enough. And on Fox, when the top of the bar comes up, 7-time Super Bowl champion, we all should kind of shudder. It's staggering. It truly is. And it's not as if, and this is not someone who rode the coattails on the way to 7 championships either. So there's that. But I wanted to just say a couple of things. 3 in a row would be, because it becomes 4, at least to the conversation. I think if you're starting to click the clock forward, it at least now says, oh, this is realistic. I'm now going to make an argument for each side of it real quick with simple math for everyone out there. Number 1 is this. Remember that Patrick Mahomes, you could argue, you could talk yourself into the idea that Patrick Mahomes, could have, would have, should have. Maybe he had more Super Bowl victories if you look at who was in his way and what happened. But if you go back and look, yes, he lost an AFC championship to Joe Burrow. But remember, he lost an AFC championship in the 2018 season in overtime to Tom Brady. And he lost a Super Bowl
to Tom Brady
in Tampa.
So that kind of proving the point?
Yes. So that's to go down that road to say that the 2 of those right there, so that's 2 that Mahomes didn't get. And not only that he didn't get, that Brady really, I won't say took from him, but Mahomes is in the wake of Brady on the way to 2 trophies for Brady. Beat Mahomes on his way in 2018 and directly through for the 2020 season. So that automatically says, all right, we've even got this head-to-head. I mean, tiebreak often is head-to-head, right? And we didn't get to see Jordan versus LeBron, so we won't get to say that. But to the fact that we had exceptional rosters quarterbacked by these 2 head-to-head at a time when we really all thought Mahomes was going to be Tampa in the Super Bowl. Right. I mean, definitively from a Vegas standpoint, et cetera.
I don't remember anymore.
From a Vegas standpoint,
I was picking.
Sure. But from a Vegas standpoint, it was the Chiefs that seemingly were the better team going into
the Bucs were
that
also
game.
At home. It was during COVID. But by the way, it was the only Super Bowl. I'm very fortunate to say this in the last 25 years that I did not go to either A, the game, or B, something that week.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Sure. Yeah. I remember that.
That was called game dropping.
You're right. That not name dropping, but game dropping, which you're able to do. I also was in snowy Connecticut for that game and for that week as well, watching the Sun in Tampa. And that was a game where you should definitively and can definitively say, I mean, Mahomes didn't even throw a touchdown pass in that game in the Super Bowl against the Bucs. And then, of course, we remember overtime rules were not rewritten for Mahomes. Maybe they should have in 2018. They wrote him for Josh Allen against Mahomes later, but that was an unfair one where the Chiefs were seemingly better. D Ford jumped off sides for those that want to relive that, but D Ford jumped off sides in what could have been the Chiefs winning that game. That was the end of that drive for the Patriots. Instead, they ended up forcing overtime and winning to Gronk in overtime in a play that apparently Josh McDaniels drew up on a napkin in the hotel that morning. But
what did he drop on a napkin? I hereby resign as head coach of the Colts.
Exactly. Okay. So there was that. So that's the argument that says Brady gets this easily. So the GOAT thing ends there. But in the idea of could be GOAT, I just want to walk down this path quickly. Super Bowl appearances. Brady, at the time he was in his 5th Super Bowl, heading to his 5th Super Bowl, was 34 years old. Patrick Mahomes is heading to his 5th. He is 29 years old. Now, there's two amazing things there. Number one, it's amazing that Brady got to another 5 after he was 34 years old. That's ridiculous in and of itself.
He had 3 careers.
Yes. But 29 years old for Mahomes at 5 means how many more could there be? We all think that if Reed and Mahomes stick together, that this rides as long as Mahomes is on the field and as long as Andy is on that sideline. So you start to stack it up. When things start lining up again and again and again, we have this tendency to think it will never end. And this is 5 Super Bowl appearances, you could say over the last 6 seasons. And in the season they didn't go, they lost in overtime in the AFC Championship. And extend it 1 year further, in the last 7 seasons, it's 5 Super Bowl appearances and 2 overtime losses in the AFC Championship. So he's right there in our minds every single time we look up in championship weekend or the Super Bowl. We're seeing Mahomes and we're saying to ourselves, wow, he's got a shot to get something Brady has.
Yeah, these are all, and I love you, man, future tenses.
Yes, they are. That one was.
Do this. If they keep going.
Yes.
He could be considered. It's until he wins 7. Like that's or something. Until he wins 7, then we can have the conversation. There's literally no conversation to have. Like yes. I respect all the points you made. They're all valid. When you boil it all down, though, for someone to say that if Mahomes wins this, if the Chiefs collectively as a team win this, and that would be for Mahomes his 4th, that 4, because 3 of them came consecutively, therefore makes him better than Brady, who won 7. It's like if Levi came to you and said, Levi, sorry to bring your son into this, Sam, lovely kid, love him. If he came to you and said, Dad, I have 4 M&Ms.
Ooh.
How many do you have? And you would say, I have 7. And if he said, I have more than you, you'd say, no, you don't.
Nope.
No. He said, I have better M&Ms than you.
But Daddy, I got 3 that are red M&Ms.
Okay. Well, no one likes the red M&Ms.
No, true. Yeah.
They're bad for you. I have 7 M&Ms, and none of them are red. It doesn't matter. Like, you are a greater possessor, a greater owner of M&Ms than your adorable kid.
Okay. I love that it is as simple as that. 7-4, and I am agreeing with you. I represented the other side, but I'm simply agreeing that in this one, it is a future conversation. We are essentially trying to get in a time machine and have a conversation that we can have if. The 2 greatest letters in sports, I've always said it to you, the 2 greatest letters in sports, I and F.
Yes. What would have happened if the Rams in 2012 had actually gotten the number 1 overall pick? If Phil Dawson hadn't missed an extra point in 2011 and the Rams hadn't gotten an extra win and they would have picked 1, not 2. They picked 2, they traded, and the Commanders, the Washington football team, took RG3. If they had gotten to 1, they would have taken Andrew Luck. I can tell you that right now. And then what would have happened? How would football history be different? Discuss what would have happened. Go ahead.
I actually heard this for this particular argument that we're actually framing this argument more than we're having it. But for this argument, the worst point I saw for sure was, what if Mahomes had won the Super Bowl in Tampa? Would that change this conversation?
No.
Which is maybe, well, first of all, it's also it's the reason it's
this
awful.
Would give him 5 and then Brady would have 6. Okay. 6 is still better than
6 is more than 4 than 5. But the reason that's the most ridiculous, first of all, you and I agree on one point, which is this. My least favorite argument is if not for. Even during a game, if not for the 60-yard touchdown run by Barkley to start the NFC Championship, the Commanders actually held him to 58 yards the rest of the game. So if not for his greatest play of the game, this would have happened, right? If not for Peyton Manning's Super Bowl against the Bears, what do we think of his career? Oh, so if not for his greatest accomplishment,
if not for Mark Andrews dropping that pass,
right.
If not for the coin toss between Mahomes and Allen, if not for Rich Carlos's field goal at the end of the '86 championship game incorrectly being called good, right? What if? Okay, what if Andrew's laptop ran out of power during this podcast? Let's look at the power.
Where are we going?
We're at 12% remaining.
Okay, so let's hit it. Let's hit it hard.
Let's do our final topic.
Let's do some awards here.
Okay, I only want to plant a flag here on Defensive Player of the Year. Won last year by Browns defensive end Myles Garrett. Defensive Player of the Year. The Browns made the playoffs. Kevin Stefanski won Coach of the Year. Joe Flacco won Comeback Player of the Year. The Pro Football Writers Association of America last week, Pro Football Writers of America gave out their DPOI. They gave it to Patrick Surtain, the corner in Denver, had a fantastic season. If he wins, he deserves it. Absolutely. Also in the conversation, Trey Hendrickson, the Bengals defensive end who week 18 had 3.5 sacks against the Steelers and ended up leading the NFL in sacks with 17.5. I will now make the argument that, and he just won the Sporting News Defensive Player of the Year this year, last week, actually like 2 days ago. I want to make the argument that Myles Garrett should win back-to-back DPOYs. Let me give you some numbers. Myles Garrett this year had a pressure rate of 18.2. Advanced metrics here. That was the highest in the NFL. He also led the league in pass rush grade. PFF number, 92.8. Total pressures, he had 83, third most in the league. Pass rush win rate, 23.1, the highest in the league. Pass rush productivity rating, 10.6. That is the highest in the league. Myles Garrett had a league high 22 TFLs, 22 tackles for a loss. I will make the argument a TFL is as important as a sack. If I beat the man in front of me and I take the ball carrier down in the backfield, whether he be quarterback or running back, and it is a net loss on the play behind the line of scrimmage for the offense, what's the difference? Sacks are the home runs of baseball, but TFLs are the doubles and triples, and they are just as productive. If I sack a quarterback for a 5-yard loss, how is that any better than me hitting the running back in the backfield and dropping him for a 5-yard loss? There really is no difference. Myles Garrett led the NFL with 22 TFLs. And then this number, final number, he was double teamed on a career high 30% of pass rush reps. His advanced numbers this year were better than his advanced numbers in 2023 when he won DPOY. If his numbers are better this year, you need to overlook the 4-13. He should win. Myles Garrett should win DPOY in back-to-back seasons. I meant what I said. Give it to him again. Trey Hendrickson, great year. Pat Surtain, great year. TJ Watt, very good year as well. I think Myles Garrett's the best defensive player in football. Every single offensive coordinator comes into the plan, and the plan is stop Myles Garrett. When Zadarius Smith was traded at the deadline, Isaiah McGuire had a great season for the Browns. He did. Played the heck out of that other edge, stopped the run, got in the backfield, TFLs. But when it came to pure pass rushers, especially when JOK got hurt, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, Myles Garrett was the guy you doubled and triple teamed every single snap. 14 sacks, and his advanced metrics were better. Give him DPOY again.
Only one thing to say here. The 4 wins. Now, MVP is very interesting because it involves the word valuable. And I would argue that I'm not upset about wins playing a factor when you look at most valuable player. I think that's okay to have value to a team. It helps when your team is also valuable to what happens in regards to getting to the playoffs. That seems fair. Defensive player of the year, I think, is different here. I also think the 4 wins is an argument for, not against, Myles Garrett. The idea, as you said, he is the number 1 player to game plan when facing the Browns. And this is a team in a season that is not going as well. And theoretically, there are players around him that are not at the level of every one of the other players that you just mentioned who had better seasons. Every single one of those players on the finalist list had a better outcome from a wins and losses standpoint. What Myles Garrett has to do week in and week out on a team that is struggling is more difficult, not less difficult than what he did last year in a season that went better. I'm just arguing for you here. I understand that, but Patrick Surtain does not deserve more credit for the idea that the Broncos made the playoffs.
He had a great year,
that the Browns did not.
He
very much did. Everyone on this list did.
Yeah.
And only one other thing I want to say is the idea that Zach Bond is a finalist for this award is the most stunning thing that we saw.
The Eagles linebacker.
The Eagles linebacker,
fantastic
Zach
year,
Bond.
and he was wreaking havoc in the postseason as well.
He's kept it going, and we know that this is a regular season award. But the idea that Zach Bond, from a free agent standpoint, and I know you hate when we just say every move the Eagles make is great. It's not true. It certainly is not.
This one was. Yeah.
And this is one that was not. This was not celebrated. This was not a move this was not. Oh, the Eagles won free agency because Zach Bond was gotten from the Saints. This was a stunning surprise that Zach Bond had an impact on this defense the way that he did in the first season without Fletcher Cox. Obviously, what Jalen Carter did, incredible. But Zach Bond's a name that when you look at this list, and I even think 100 years from now, when we look back at this list, it's going to be incredible that Zach Bond is on that. And that's it. And one final thing, the idea that the Bengals had the leading passer, the leading receiver, and the leading sack amasser in a season that they did not go to the playoffs is just ridiculous. I still just don't even understand how that's possible.
Yeah. You know what? Every interview Joe Burrow gives in the postseason, in the offseason, and at the Pro Bowl games, by the way, Drake May, Pro Bowl quarterback, thumbs up, asked the same questions. Like, how did you guys not do it? And yeah, how much should they pay T. Higgins? Anyway, I digress. My computer is truly about to die. I have turned the screen off on my laptop. Are we on? Can you still hear me?
We are still on.
Okay. Time to say goodbye before this thing crashes. That is Sam. My name is Andrew. We'll figure out Super Bowl week, but I guarantee you we'll be back. This is another edition. We thank you for listening, subscribing, liking, and sharing, and telling your friends and neighbors and Romans and countrymen about it. Thinking out loud. So long, everybody.